a fascinating article that appeared in the Washington Times, a very conservative newspaper, got picked up over at Newsmax, and variations on this have appeared over the years. In fact, the big variation on this was the story that we did a few weeks ago that made it big in the liberal side of the internet, which is that the average Walmart costs us about $1 million a year, costs the community, the local community, or taxpayers in the country about $1 million a year, because we subsidize Walmart's workers by giving them food stamps and housing assistance and other forms of assistance. That the whole McDonald's business model, that we subsidize McDonald's, and the argument that was made was that we really should change at least our minimum wage laws, so that if you can't pay somebody a decent wage, a wage on which they can live. I mean, Walmart workers literally cannot live if they buy everything at Walmart. They can't live, and on a Walmart salary, on a full-time Walmart starting salary. So that there should be some sort of basic minimum. And it turns out that we're paying on average $36 this is for the $50,000 household. This is the median household in the United States. That household pays $36 a year for food stamps, and pays over $6,000 a year in various forms of corporate welfare and corporate subsidies, and about $1,200 a year of that is subsidizing Walmart and these big fast food companies via subsidizing their employees. But how did this come about? Patrice Hill wrote this fascinating piece. She's chief economic correspondent for the Washington Times, over at the Washington Times. We may, in fact, I would guess that we almost certainly disagree on what we should do with this information, but I found the genesis of it fascinating. Patrice, welcome to the program.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for joining me. First of all, do you disagree with any part of the, what I've characterized so far?
No, I think, there's the interesting thing about the topic is there's any number of ways you can look at it. You can look at it as taxpayer subsidies of the corporation. Republicans, as you know, are choosing to look at it as taxpayer subsidies of individuals who they think are not, pulling their weight and sort of depending on government to get by.
Right.
So there's just a lot of different ways, angles you can look at this, and it's rather complex topic. And what I thought was interesting is that, as you said, the liberals have taken the view, actually very close to the conservative view, that this is taxpayer subsidies of corporations that was not intended by the welfare reform laws in 1996. Mm-hmm. But there are some Democrats, and I quote Jason Furman, the chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors, saying that this is actually what was intended by the welfare law, that, the government would essentially be supplementing people's income. For people at the bottom end of the income scale, the government would be supplementing with food stamps, earned income tax credits, Medicaid, all kinds of very lucrative and costly benefits.
Right.
And that was actually contemplated when the welfare law.
Well, and at a certain level, and you write about this, he may be right in as much as at that time, prior to 96, and this was a collaborative effort between Bill Clinton and Newt Gingrich, if my memory serves me right. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, I think those were two of the principal players.
Yeah. That the goal was to look at multi-generational poverty, multi-generational welfare, and say, we're going to end that. We're going to break that cycle. People can only be on welfare for basically 4 years, or maybe it's 5 years. And after that, you've got to get a job. Now, we realize there's not, and now keep in mind, this was during the dot-com bubble. There's a roaring boom. Unemployment was at 3.5%, 4% at the time, really low, whatever it was. And so there were jobs out there. So they said, you've got to get a job. And if the job doesn't pay all that well, we'll give you a little transition on the assumption that eventually you're going to get promoted, or over time you're going to get a little seniority, that these are starting jobs that you'll start out with. And, a year, 2 years, 3 years down the road, you'll be making, $2, $3, $4 an hour more. That's obviously not how it worked out. But in a way, this proves the old saw that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. You think?
Yeah, it's. I think you stated it exactly correctly. That it was supposed to be just a leg up, to help people get started in the work world, and then eventually they would, as you say, get promoted, and move on, and move above the minimum wage level. But it hasn't worked out that way. Both because corporations are choosing to pay workers, even people with some skills, at this low wage, but also I think some of the people at this income level are not really doing what they could to develop their skills and get the education they need to move to better paying jobs. So yes, it's
whether you want to blame the company or blame the individual, we can agree that the situation is not a good and healthy situation. Arguably for the people or for the corporations, but perhaps most importantly, it's not a good and healthy situation for the taxpayers. That this several $1,000s a year per family tax subsidy, basically, that working people are paying to subsidize poverty level wages, the people working at those wages or the corporations, depending on which way you want to look at this, glass half full or empty. That's not a healthy thing for our democracy. That money could be better used for anything from building roads to cutting taxes, right? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, I think this was, that was certainly not what people who got into this. Although, as I said, there is a camp within the Democratic Party that is saying that this was.
Yeah, well, I would say that's the corporatist camp. Those are the corporatist Democrats, the Democrats who want to be in bed with the big corporations and take money from those big corporations and be subsidized by them. And
because, if you recall, Furman even argued that if you forced Walmart to pay workers so that they wouldn't get those benefits, in other words, to basically pay them enough to make up for the benefits,
right,
they would have no profits, and it would wipe out Walmart.
Right, which
so
is
that
not...
that was his argument.
Yeah, but it's not true.
Well, they'd have to... the only way it wouldn't be true is that they would have to raise prices. And
well, no, Costco competes with Walmart, and they start out at $40,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that the difference is, and we had one of these guys on, the guys who own Costco, the two guys who started Costco and the principal owners of Costco are worth a couple $100 million, and they make a few $1 million a year. The six Walton heirs own more wealth than the bottom 30% of all of America. In aggregate, they're the richest person in the world, and they're earning hundreds of millions of dollars a year. So just as stockholders, and they're not even, they don't even own all the stock or even a majority of it anymore. So, Costco, competes with Walmart, but they do it by taking less money for the owners. It's real simple. But in any case, that's a whole other issue, I suppose. But so we have just a few seconds left, Patrice. You've done a really good job of identifying this. I want to recommend this to people. Welfare to Work law encourages low wages, raises dependency on federal benefits is the article. Patrice Hill wrote it over at the remind me of the newspaper. The Washington Times. Thank you. WashingtonTimes.com. And people can look it up. Solutions? Does anybody talking about solutions, Patrice?
Well, I think people are just starting to talk about it, and I'm not sure that they've even looked at it in the holistically the way we're talking about it. I think a lot of Republicans are just viewing it as a problem with overspending on welfare, and many Democrats are viewing it as a problem with just raising the minimum wage. And those are actually the two ends you have to look at, in terms of trying to correct the problem.
Right. I agree.
I agree. Probably it's really
Patrice,
one of those rare areas where you think they might actually be able to meet in the middle if they were. Hang on
just a second.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Patrice, I totally agree with you. And Patrice Hill, the chief economic correspondent with the Washington Times, WashingtonTimes.com. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me. I enjoyed it.
Thank you.